My name is Emir Jorge Morais. Many of the Port Society members know me as George. I am a New Bedford resident. I have lived here just about all my life. I did take some time where I went away to college and lived in Boston. I attended Northeastern University. Then I lived in Boston for a few years, worked out there. I currently work right now as a software product manager for a large university. And I love the work that I do. And one of the things that I wanted to do when I moved back to New Bedford, after living many years in Boston, is really get engaged with my community. I was approached by Phil Oliveira, who serves as the Port Society's president today. And I said, sure, I think this will give me a great opportunity to get engaged with the community. Now I'm making close to 2.5 years here as a member of the Port Society, something that I'm very proud of. I have a young daughter at home and my partner as well. And so one of the other reasons that I wanted to become involved with the Port Society was to kick off an educational program. Many other organizations within the area here have their own education program that they offer, be it the Whaling Museum, the National Park, the New Bedford Fishing Heritage. And I said, boy, would it be nice to certainly have a education program here at the Port Society. I think we've continued to do great work. It's just been a great opportunity for me. The New Bedford Port Society is an organization that was founded in the 1830s. And we're about to celebrate our bicentennial in the next few years. And the mission of the New Bedford Port Society is to protect, preserve, and promote the rich heritage of New Bedford, especially as it relates to the Seamen's Bethel and, of course, the Mariner's Home. And the Mariner's Home served as a location that provided support, helping many of the sailors, mariners, and whalers that came through the New Bedford's fishing port at that time, and whaling port even before that. I think that we have a responsibility as members of the community to preserve that rich history. Education opens up the doors for many communities, and I think that education doesn't just come in the form of a textbook. It comes in the form of engaging in real life, a building like this, being able to walk the cobblestone streets of New Bedford, to know that many of these buildings have been here since the 1800s. And what I think sets apart the Seamen's Bethel from a lot of other places is that we actually have a physical building in order to tell the story. People that have walked through these doors, hundreds if not thousands. Herman Melville had the opportunity to just sit here in one of these pews and partake in one of the rituals and services that they had here, and then eventually be able to tell the story of Moby Dick that we're all very much familiar with. So education is a big part of the New Bedford Port Society, and really telling that rich history. And I think it's a great opportunity to also educate some of the youth, those that are residents here of New Bedford, talk a little bit about how the whaling industry really formed not only New Bedford, but a lot of the different areas within the United States. During that time, during the whaling industry, it was the largest and most lucrative whaling port, and that is a story in and of itself. And then when you fast forward several decades, of course, then it became a commercial fishing port as it is today. I do have several ancestors that came here as whalers. I am of Cape Verdean descent. And so my history here goes back several decades, well over 100 years. And then during the 1960s, 70s, and 80s, we also had many Cape Verdeans that came from the Cape Verde Islands in hopes of, seeking greater opportunity to support their family, to contribute to the community itself. And so they started working in many of the commercial fishing vessels that you see here down in the port. My mom and dad came to the United States in the late 1980s. And during that time, they also, worked to keep, to support our family down at the waterfront, just shucking scallops, And so since that time, it has shown that we've had quite a history of not only Cape Verdeans, Portuguese, and other ethnicities within this very diverse community that have contributed to the growth in building out New Bedford to what it is. And that's a lot of the kind of storytelling that we tell here at the Seamens Bethel, the Mariners Home, and the Port Society as a whole, is the rich history, maritime heritage of New Bedford, and what it has contributed not only to the city, but as I said before, to the to the country at large. I don't want the future in younger adults or children to lose sight of what we have here, because it's so precious, right? To be able to focus in on how the hard work, dedication, perseverance that many of the sailors, whalers, and even some of the commercial fishing vessels partake or are involved in. I think that we shouldn't take that for granted. It's something that we should be constantly providing time and resources to continue to build. One of the things that I'm very proud of is the restoration that we've done here at the Seamens Bethel over the last several years, whether or not it's, replacing the roof and kind of like focusing on building and cleaning out much of the interior, and maybe adding some more of the electronics and more contemporary forms of communication within the Bethel to, again, meet students where they are, be able to meet our tourists and local residents where they are, as we are still kind of focused in on the rich history of New Bedford. And so to that end, I think we have a fiduciary and a responsibility as residents to preserve this beautiful building, and of course the Mariners Home, as stewards. And we can't do it alone. I think we have to do it collectively through the strong partnerships that we've built and cultivated over the many years. Being able to storytell many of the stories that we hear from ancestors or people that have been on, some of those vessels that are sitting on at the port today, or even some of the stories that took place decades ago. And so I've been steeped and really involved with this community and this area for many years, and I will continue to do so, for the betterment of the city.